Hi everyone, welcome to another video and thank you so much for visiting my channel. My name is Natasha, I'm a polyglot, and today I will answer one of the most popular questions when it comes to language learning, and it is how long it takes on average to learn a new language from the very beginning. This is a very popular question for a perfectly normal and logical reason. Most of the people, when deciding to learn a new language, are doing so with a certain goal in their mind. Most of people are actually learning languages not for fun, but because they need it either in order to get a new job or to move to a new country or to further their education somewhere. So it is perfectly normal to ask yourself, how long is it going to take me to learn certain language or to become fluent in certain language? This is also one of those questions that is very often discussed here on YouTube among language experts and polyglots. And I feel that a lot of them are not very honest when it comes to answering to this question. So in today's video, I want to give you my own experience and an honest answer that you might not really like, but I think it's pretty important to know it before you start learning a new language. If you have been visiting different YouTube channels that are dedicated to language learning, you probably came across many YouTubers who are claiming that they managed to become fluent in certain language in 3 months, or they're having videos on their channel where they're claiming that with their tips you will learn your target language or become fluent in your target language in 3 to 6 months. And you have also probably seen different language learning apps that are claiming that if you use their app, you will become fluent in whatever language you want to learn in just a few months. Every time when I see something like this, I have to roll my eyes and I'm like, oh, no, you did not learn any language in 3 months, and you probably didn't manage to become fluent in 6 months either. Now, I of course understand that in the world of YouTube videos, in order to become popular and in order to get viewers and subscribers, you have to lie a lot, and most of these video titles are just clickbaits that are supposed to get your attention. However, I'm also very aware that a lot of people actually do believe that it's possible to become fluent in any language in 3 to 6 months, which is not true. I think that when it comes to learning languages or anything else in life, it is important to remember that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't true. So if you see someone claiming that they managed to learn a language in 3 months, you probably might think, wow, that's amazing, but a little bit too amazing. And if you think that, you're right, they are lying most probably. Now, when it comes to language learning, I also have to be honest and say that each one of us is different, and your speed of language learning is going to be different than mine or someone else's. And there are a few different reasons why is it so. First and most important is the fact that some people, when it comes to starting to learn a new language, are ready to dedicate much more time to that process than some other people. And it is a huge difference between someone who is frequenting a language learning class twice a week and someone who is ready to dedicate all 5 working days of the week to learning a new language. So your speed of learning a new language is going to depend a lot on time you dedicate to it, which is something that sounds perfectly logical. It's not the same learning a language twice a week or learning it every single day of the week. And of course, the more you learn, the faster you're going to be. Another thing that is going to influence the speed of your language learning process is your talent. Nobody is talented for everything. Some people are very smart, they're brilliant, but they're good with numbers. Unfortunately, not with languages. And of course, people like that are going to be much slower in learning languages than people who are like me or like some of you who are more talented for words and language learning than for some other things. And this is also one thing that you really have to keep in mind. If you are someone who is good with, let's say, numbers or science, and languages are not your strongest asset, then you are probably going to take much longer to learn a language or to reach fluency. Another thing that you have to keep in mind is also that the speed of language learning depends a lot on the language that you picked and its similarity to languages that you already speak or your native language. If you are, for example, a native Italian speaker and you decided to learn Spanish, you are probably going to be much faster in learning Spanish than someone who is a native speaker of Russian, let's say, just for the reason of your native language being very similar to your target language. There are also many more things that indicate how fast you're going to learn certain language. Some of us just have it easier, some of us have it harder, but nobody ever manage to become fluent in certain language in 3 months. So if you see anyone who is claiming that, feel free to call them a liar or to consider them a liar, because some things are just too good to be true, and this is one of them. Now, when it comes to answering the question how long it takes to learn a certain language, I can tell you from my own experience that you should not expect to learn a language or to become fluent in any less than 9 to 12 months or almost a year. I am saying this because I have had experience with learning a language in order to study in that language, which in most European countries, if you want to study in a language of that country, you have to reach B2 level, which among most of the polyglots or most language experts is considered as fluency. It's not perfect language knowledge, but it is enough for you to be able to study, to work in certain country in that language, and to be considering yourself fluent. So when I was 19 years old, I moved to Czech Republic and I had to learn Czech from the very beginning. I did not speak any Czech when I arrived there, and I had to learn it to a B2 level in order to be able to study there. Now, B2 and being able to study or work in certain language sounds like something very serious, and you really have to be fluent and to feel self-confident when it comes to speaking that language. And I know it sounds scary, so most of the people don't even do that. However, in most of European countries, in order to reach this level, you have to attend classes of that language and to learn it for 1 academic year, which in most places is 9 months. But let's say 9 months to 12 months is, in my opinion, time necessary for you to learn a certain language and to reach fluency. When it comes to my experience with Czech, for example, I used to have Czech classes 5 times a week. It was like a normal school day, so not only 45-minute class, it was few-hour class. And also I was living in a country where that language is spoken, so I was exposed to that language 24/7 for 9 months. This is very different than just living in your home country and frequenting language learning classes. Trust me, being surrounded by native speakers and just having to get around with your new target language is very different than living in your country and speaking your native language on a daily basis and just frequenting or going to learning classes. And when I tell you that my Czech learning experience was so intense and it still took me 9 months to reach B1 level, you can understand how long it takes to someone who is not living in a country where their language is spoken. So when it comes to me learning Czech, I can tell you that I was pretty good compared to other students, but I also had a huge advantage. Czech is very similar to my native language, which is Serbian. I'm also considering myself to be someone who is talented for languages. And I also was living in a country where that language is spoken. And even with all those advantages that I have, it took me 9 months to reach B2 level. So if you are someone who is learning a language that's not similar to your native or to any other language that you're learning, if you're not living in a country where it's spoken, and if you are only dedicating a little bit less time to learning that language, trust me, you cannot become fluent in less than a year. It will definitely take 1 year to reach fluency in the best case scenario. So don't feel disappointed if you are not able to become fluent in 3 or 6 months or whatever YouTube experts are claiming that you are able to do, because you are just not. And let me also tell you that even after I reached B1 level or B2 level, after I passed my exam for B2 level in Czech, I still did not feel as confident when it comes to speaking that language as I do now after I have spent 5 years living there. So I have already said this many times on my channel, learning a language is a process that never stops. You are never going to reach perfection in your new target language that you are learning, but the more you spend time talking to people who are speaking it and the more time you spend surrounded with that language, the better you will become. However, you will never be perfect, and you will always keep improving if you want to. However, if you are someone who feels disappointed because you didn't reach fluency or whatever level you expected to reach within 3 or 6 months of intensive learning, don't be disappointed. It is, in my opinion, impossible, even for the most talented people, to reach fluency in such a short time. I know that this video and my interpretation of this question might be disappointing for those of you who were a little bit too optimistic when it comes to language learning. I know that everyone nowadays just wants to hear that you can reach success or learn something quickly and without pain. However, when it comes to learning languages and pretty much anything else, I don't think it's possible. So if you are disappointed when you heard that it takes at least a year to learn a language or to reach fluency, please don't be, because nobody in the world is able to reach fluency in 3 or 6 months or whatever else you were hoping for. I know that most of the people that are following me are pretty experienced with language learning. I see it in the comments under my videos. So you probably already knew this. However, if you are new to my channel and you got disappointed with my answer, don't be. 1 year is still a really short time compared to average lifespan. So you still have plenty of time to learn as many languages as you want. However, I would definitely advise all of you not to be too ambitious and too optimistic. I think that when it comes to learning languages, it is pretty important to be realistic with your expectations in order to avoid your self-disappointment and giving up and just suffering unnecessarily. So let me know in the comments, what do you think, how long it takes to learn languages? Are you one of those wonderful people who manage to become fluent in a certain language in 6 months? I know you probably are not, because it doesn't exist. Those people don't exist in real life. But anyway, let me know your opinion about this topic, and thank you so much for watching my video. See you next week.